Happy New Year, as today is January 1st, 2019. I am really excited about what God has in store for all of us in 2019. I just feel like it's going to be a good year. But I want to talk about a couple things. So, yesterday, God taught me two things. The second was sort of a roundabout result of the first thing. But and that's what I'm actually going to talk about, is the second thing he taught me. But in order for me to talk about that, I need to help you understand how the first thing came about. So, anyway, yesterday I started my day by reading a book, Good Morning, Holy Spirit by Benny Hinn. It's an old book. It's been around for a long time, but I just felt this need to pull it off my shelf and start reading it. And I'm a really analytical person, so when I read something, I really need to think about it and kind of let it settle in my mind and kind of figure out what it means to me. And there were a couple things that I read in the book, and as I read it, I just kind of asked myself, all right, so if this is true, then what about this, this, and this? And so it goes. So through reading that, I learned something about a past situation that happened quite a few years ago, and it taught me something about myself and taught me how some things had come about that I was kind of confused about. So through that, when I kind of caught that revelation, in my mind, I thought, all right, that's perfect. It'll fit in perfectly with what I had planned on talking about on my videos. So in my last video, I just said that I was going to be talking about the tactics of Satan and the different things that he uses to get us off track. And so in doing that, I kind of started creating an outline of how I would discuss it and how I would bring it about and the order in which I would take things. So when I got that little revelation yesterday, I thought, oh, that's great. It'll kind of fit in with the things and the order of things that I want to talk about. But I figured I would bring it to you at a later date because I had something else that I wanted to talk about first. So I sat down with my nice little outline, and I was going to maybe bring what I learned yesterday to you at a later date, but I wanted to talk about something else first. And I sat down and I made my video. And nothing flowed. Like, it just didn't seem right. It didn't seem like the right thing. So I stopped the video and I stopped and I said a little prayer. And I just asked God, God, help me to deliver this in a way that's effective and can help people and can get the point across. And I don't want to use a script. I just want to be able to talk from my heart. And so after I said that prayer, I decided, all right, so I would attempt it again. So again, I made my video. And then again, afterward, I thought, I don't understand. I don't understand why there's not flow, why it's just doesn't seem right or feel right. Because what I'm saying is, I feel it good and it's important and it's something that's helped me. So why would it not be something that I needed to bring across to you? But I couldn't articulate what I was trying to say. So I just stopped the video and I walked away. And I just sort of started thinking about what had happened and why I was struggling with this. And then this is where the second thing that God taught me came in. I was trying to treat these videos sort of like, as I decided this is what I'm going to do and I'm going to be committed to it, I was trying to treat these videos as almost like I would a sermon, because there's definitely a place for your outline and for making all of the points that you want to bring across. And so that's what I kind of started treating these videos as, but that's not what God gave the idea to me in the first place. It was, as I learned something, I was going to bring that something that I learned to you in hopes that if it's something that helped me, it would in turn help you, as I told you what that lesson was. But But that's not all of a sudden how I was going to do this. I was going to, have a series of little messages that one would play on top of the other. And all of a sudden, it hit me that I was sort of trying to create an agenda for God. And so what I learned yesterday as I was trying so desperately to make these videos is that God doesn't bless our work. We can't just decide we're going to do something good and expect God to just kind of put his stamp of approval on it and say, absolutely, that's good. Like, that's a good idea. Glad you thought of it. It's not how God works. He does not bless our work. What God does bless is his work in us. That's where God's blessing lies. We run around like as Christians, and this happened to me, trying to do good and trying to help all of these people and just kind of throwing our stuff out there and thinking that God's going to bless it and it's going to land. But all the while, we may be being disobedient to something specific that God has given us. But we think that because it's good, that God's just going to bless it. But that is not what God does. God does not bless our work. God blesses his work through us. So it's imperative, if we want God's blessing on that, it's imperative that we be obedient, one step at a time. It's kind of like God tells us or gives us a command or gives us something that he wants us to do. And before we'll do that, we want to know, all right, well, what's going to come after that? And then what's going to come after that? We want to know the whole story, the whole picture, before we participate in the first part of it. But that's not how God works. God says, do what I say, and then I'll show you the next step. So it sort of kind of goes back to so many miracles in the Bible where God was telling someone that something would happen. And for example, splitting of the sea, the Red Sea, God said, I'll split the Red Sea, you guys are going to walk across. But he didn't split the Red Sea first and say, okay, I've split it, now walk across. It took stepping into the Red Sea first, then the waters split. We want the waters to split before we take a step. And God's saying, no, do what I told you first. And then, and only then, will the next thing happen. And my dad, last night for New Year's Eve, I was at my parents' house, and I was just kind of talking to my mom and dad about the things that God had shown me yesterday. And my dad was talking about a story in the Bible where there was a ruler who had given his servant a command to watch a prisoner. And so this servant, that was his responsibility, to watch the prisoner and keep him from escaping. But the servant, instead of focusing on that, decided to go about his regularly daily servant activities. And in the midst of while he was doing his regular activities, the prisoner escaped. So the master comes back and says, what happened to the prisoner? And the servant basically says, oh, well, while I was about your business, the prisoner escaped. And isn't that how we are? Like, God gives us a specific task, and we instead decide to give him something else and to do something else, and we expect God to be pleased with that. We expect God to say, oh, well, all right, you were doing a good thing, so I will go ahead and I'll bless it anyway. Even though that's not what I told you to do, you were still doing good things, so I'm going to bless it. And that is not what God does. When God gives us a specific command, he expects obedience. And through the obedience of that command, he will give us the next, and he will bless his work that we're doing through that. Now, in turn, in him blessing his work through us, we get the benefits of that blessing. But God does not just put a stamp of approval on something because we think it's good or because we think it's the right thing to do. So our challenge is to listen to God and be obedient at each step. Not go about doing good things, but go about doing His thing. And then in the process, we won't get tired. We won't get worn out. How many preachers or how many Christians or how many servants of God are just tired? They're just tired. It happened to our entire family. We just all of a sudden found ourselves really tired. And we have to ask ourselves, why? Why did we get so weary? Because Jesus says, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. Then why were we so tired? Why were we so worn out? And maybe it's because we were so busy doing the Master's business that we ignored maybe the simple task that God had put in front of us. So all that being said, I'm no longer going to tell you an agenda that I have, or tell you what we're going to be talking about, or tell you what we're going to be going through. And maybe it won't be once a week like I decided. It's going to have to be, I need to post something once a week. I need to bring something once a week. It may not be that way. I'm going to go back to, again, the original thing that God gave me from the beginning, which was as I learn something new that helps me, that I'm going to bring that newness and that lesson and how God brought it about to you, in hopes that if it's something that's helped me, then it will help you. So until God gives me another revelation, or until God teaches me something new, then that'll be that. So I will see you next time. Have a great day.